Hey everyone, welcome to another weekly live with AI Guide. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm traveling this week, so I am in temporary quarters and very much looking forward to doing this show because there's a few amazing things to talk about this week. Before we jump into that, let's just talk real quickly again about why I'm doing the AI Guide, and that is that AI is coming into more and more aspects of our lives, and it's happening very quickly. Most of it is still happening behind the scenes, and a lot of stuff that's going on right now is going to be much, much more visible very shortly. And these things are then going to be extremely noticeable and have a more direct impact on your everyday life. So, one of the things I like to do is talk about one of the breaking news pieces for the week and then talk about how that relates to you. So, the first thing up today is from Science News, which is a great, great source for information if you love science. And Science News had an article out of the University of Hong Kong about how they're trying to improve the process for AI's reading medical imaging. So when we say that, what are we talking about? We're talking about x rays, we're talking about CAT scans, we're talking about MRIs, anything that currently uses a radiologist to read it. So even though AI has been in use for a while, it's still pretty manual and difficult to use. So first they write the algorithm and then they validate the algorithm with test data. But as they put more and more data into the database, all of that data still has to be hand labeled. So when the image shows a particular thing, right, then um, that image has to be labeled. Sorry, I've got allergies going on. That it's easily possible that most radiologists won't be necessary, particularly for simpler images like x rays. And then by 2030, it's very safe to bet that radiologists won't be needed if these AI algorithms have been able to get more and more accurate and are self training. So, this is the exact reason why I started the AI Guide, is because there are many, many careers, and this is a white collar professional, very high paying career that will be disrupted by AI. AI will be equal opportunity in its disruption. So, this is why you need to prepare for AI. So, if you click the link below the video, which I will put on after a post, you can get a free resource that I've provided. And this resource has other resources in it, all of which are free. And then if you complete the process of the free resource, you can participate in the beta course. And the beta course is totally free while it's in beta, but very soon it's going to start going for $479, and it's called the Pivot to an AI Safe Career course. This is going to affect radiologists. It's going to affect drivers. It's going to affect warehouse people. It's going to affect a lot of people. I'm going to continue to give specific examples. I'm going to continue to provide tools to prepare you. So please prepare yourself for the wave of automation that's coming. So that was the first one, University of Hong Kong, very interesting stuff. And the next one is this is from MIT Technology Review, which again is very, very cool source for information about many, many things, but AI is one of them. So this article from MIT Tech Review talks about how a new deep learning algorithm can detect earthquakes by filtering out city noise. So detection of earthquakes is entirely done by sound, and it's done by seismographs, which are basically sound receivers that are put into the ground all over the world to detect ground motion, which makes sound waves. And the problem in a city, as you might guess, is lots of background noise. You've got cars, you've got trucks, you've got um, machinery, you've got tons and tons of things that are making noise. And the bigger the city, the noisier it is. Anyone who has been to one of the major cities on the globe, like New York, Tokyo, London, Paris, Sydney, knows that cities are loud. So, this new algorithm, what it does is it dampens out that city sound so that the sensors can only detect seismology. And that's extremely important. Why? Because some of the biggest cities in the entire world are on top of or adjacent to major fault lines. So I can give you a few examples. One is north of New York City, about a year ago now, April of last year, they shut down a nuclear power plant on the Hudson River just north of New York City. Why did they do that? Well, they discovered that there's a fault line right under that nuclear power plant. So they shut it down. It'll take 60 years to decommission it. But now, if there's a major earthquake because the reactors are offline, they can't have a meltdown. And speaking of meltdowns, another example, the Fukushima earthquake off the coast of Japan that seriously impacted Tokyo, but even worse, it sent a tsunami into Fukushima Prefecture and flooded out a nuclear power plant and caused it to melt down. And there's still like a 90-mile radius around that plant where no people are allowed to go at all, and you can't live there. And this is for the foreseeable future. Another huge earthquake zone with heavy, heavy population, Indonesia. Indonesia has some of the biggest, most active, most powerful volcanoes in the world. And seismic activity almost always precedes a volcanic eruption. I think it does always, from what I've read, but let's say almost always. So in Indonesia in particular, like Jakarta, which is home to millions and millions of